Hello and welcome, friends. In Unit 5, which is Salesforce Management, up till now we have discussed the Salesforce objectives and Salesforce structure. We talked about the different types of Salesforce structure, and then we talked about the Salesforce size and how to determine the appropriate size. We talked about the compensation plans as well. Now is the time for us to talk about Salesforce recruitment, selection and training. I hope you remember our discussion from human resource management course, wherein we talked about the difference between recruitment and selection. You know that recruitment comes before selection. You also know that recruitment is attracting a wide pool of applicants for the positions in the organization, while selection is basically a negative process in the sense that it actually rejects those candidates, those applicants who are not fit for the job. So this is something that we have already known about recruitment and selection, so you can refer to your earlier notes also. I'll only be giving you only a brief about Salesforce recruitment selection, because whatever you have studied in human resource management within human resource planning and recruitment, selection and training and motivation and compensation management and performance appraisal, all those things are going to apply here, right? So I'll be discussing them all in detail, all in very brief, so that you just get a flavor of how we do these HRM activities for the Salesforce. You can always refer to your earlier notes, right? So let's talk about recruitment first. So what all sources are there as far as recruitment is concerned? The company can come up with job advertisements on newspapers, on magazines, as well as on websites. And the candidates who are eligible for the positions, they may apply against these advertisements. So this can be one way. Then the company can also talk to consultants, third-party service providers, the HR consultants or the recruitment consultants. Now these consultants basically act as a link between the job seekers and the company, and basically the company has to share its requirements as to what all skills is it looking forward in its sales force, and what is the number of salesperson that it wants to hire. This information is shared with the consultants, with the recruitment consultants, and then they source the CVs of eligible candidates and provide it to the company. The company then can conduct interviews on their own and decide which ones to hire. So this can be another way. When you are recruiting using consultants, naturally you don't need to have your own HR department on the recruitment function, and in that sense it would be saving your time and money. So it is a good option for small companies who do not have their own dedicated HR department. Then the company can also decide to source the candidates from various management institutes, from various colleges. This could be another option. And the company can also ask its existing employees to provide referrals, to provide names of those candidates who they feel can be good fit for the organization. So based on this information obtained from the existing employees, the candidates can be called up and they can be contacted and asked to apply for the positions in the company. So this is another method that can be used, and the advantage of this method is that it reduces your cost of hiring, because you get a pool of candidates straight from your own employees. So in that sense it saves you cost and money. There can be other sources of recruitment also. For example, companies organize walk-ins, wherein any candidate who is eligible for the post can simply walk in and can appear in the interview. The more modern version is known as talk-in, wherein any eligible candidate can call up on a particular number which has been given, and then they can be telephonically interviewed, and then the final round of interview can take face-to-face. So these options are also available to a firm. Then let's talk about selection, which follows recruitment. So the selection tools that you can use are the tests, interviews. What kind of tests are we talking about? These could be tests of intelligence, IQ tests, these could be test of personality, these could be test of how you react under stress situations. Then again we have interviews. Interviews could be of different varieties. For example, in one variety you have got just one interviewer who will be interviewing the candidates. On the other hand, you can also have a panel of interviewers who will be interviewing the candidates. So these two variations are there which can be made use of. Interviews are very much suitable in case you want to know how the individual reacts under stress. What is his reaction when he's facing a stressful situation? Because sales can many a times be a stressful job, and if you want to find out how a person reacts to stress, interviews can be a good option for you. Then two things which you need to take care of while selecting the candidates is that their personality characteristics should be appropriate, because sales requires a slightly different set of personality characteristics. For example, somebody needs to have good communication. One individual who is not having good communication may not become a good salesperson. Then as a salesperson you also need to have this customer orientation, wherein you are thinking about the customer and you are prioritizing the customer needs. So these personality characteristics are unique to salespersons, and that is why these are very important whenever you are selecting candidates for the job of a salesperson. Please understand that we'll be discussing these characteristics in a little while from now in a little detail. Then past employment history can also give you a good idea about what kind of individual some candidate is. Is he good or not? Is he good enough for the job or not? And what has been his performance in the earlier jobs that he has held, earlier positions that he has held. So this could be a good predictor of how he is going to perform in future. So you can also have a look at the past employment history which the candidate would provide in the application blank, in the application form which you would fill right in the beginning while applying for the job during the recruitment phase. So that can also be a good idea. You may also contact his bosses in the previous organizations or his colleagues in the previous organization and can get a first-hand view from them as to how the candidate performs and what are his unique strengths and what are his weaknesses. So that can also be a good option for you while doing the selection. Then please also understand that the personal characteristics which we are looking for, we have been saying that some specific personal characteristics are required for the job of a salesperson. So what are these specific personal characteristics which are unique to the salesperson's job? Careful planning is very important. For example, if a particular salesperson has been assigned a particular territory, how he is going to roam in that particular territory? Let's take example of the Uttarakhand territory, and I have discussed this earlier also, whether he is going to Pithoragarh first and then he is coming to Dehradun, or he is taking the other route, maybe starting from Dehradun and then covering Haridwar and then coming to Pithoragarh. So how does he plan his visits to the customer? How does he plan his sales presentation? So that is very important for him. So we need a good planner. We also need a person who is having a lot of self-confidence, because the salesperson has to make a presentation in front of the customers, in front of the prospects, and he need to have certain level of confidence to be able to make a good impression on the prospects and to be able to get the order. Again, the salesperson needs to be energetic. Please understand that sales is a very tiring job. It may so happen that you may have to travel in night also. You may have to remain away from your home for extended periods of time, and plus you may have to answer the customer queries even at the dead of the night. So you need to be very energetic when you are joining this kind of a profile of a salesperson. Again, we want the salesperson to have empathy also. Now, what do we mean by empathy? Empathy is putting yourself in shoes of others, trying to assess, trying to understand how a particular person might be feeling. So here, the salesperson need to have this empathy vis-a-vis the customer. He should be able to think from the point of view of the customer, because then only he is going to suggest the best solution for the customer, and then only he is going to understand the unique requirements of a particular customer. And if this happens, then only the customer would be provided the appropriate product to suit his requirements, and he would be a satisfied one. and would return for repurchase. Again, the salesperson also has to take risk, but not extreme level of risk, moderate level of risk, because whenever you are approaching a particular client or a prospect, he may or may not buy. If he does not buy, the time and the energy and the money that you have spent trying to approach him, that is basically a waste. So in that sense, the salesperson has to take a risk. Again, salesperson is generally given stretch targets wherein they will have to work hard to attain those targets. So in that sense also they have to take risk, because if they don't attain their targets, they would probably not be getting sufficient bonus or sufficient commission. So in that sense also the salesperson has to take risks. So salesperson should know how to take risks, and he should be taking moderate risks. So that is another trait that we look for in a salesperson. And then problem solving. Now what do we mean by problem solving? Basically, the salesperson should have this orientation that I'm not selling just a product to the customer, I'm trying to solve his problem through this particular product. So he should be able to understand the needs of the customer, and then he should be able to suggest a product which solves his problem, rather than just selling him a product. Suggest the best possible product for him so that he can satisfy his own requirements. So this is what we mean by problem solving approach. Then the customers also prefer certain qualities, certain traits in the salesperson. They prefer the salesperson to be honest, which means the salesperson should not be duping, should not be fooling the customers. He should be reliable. If he makes a promise, he should fulfill that particular promise. If he promises that the delivery would be made by 30th of November, then the delivery should be made by 30th of November. So this is what reliability is. Not only this, the salesperson should be knowledgeable about his own product, about the features of his own product, about how is it technically better than other products in the market, and how it scores over other products in the market, because the customers may have different queries, and the customer would not be satisfied with your sales presentation until and unless you respond to his queries also and you satisfy his queries also. So in that sense, the customers also expect the salespersons to be knowledgeable, and of course they also expect them to be of helping nature, because the customers may face various problems. Many a times the product which has already been purchased and the payment which has already been made, but still the product is not working properly. So in such cases, it is for the salesperson to promptly respond to the customer's call. So that is what the customers expect in their salespersons. Right, so in that sense, we should be also looking forward to having these traits in whosoever we are selecting as our salesperson. Again, one very important factor is this. Many a times the salesperson will have to stay away from home. Now what does that mean? That would mean that since he is staying away from home, the spouse, the husband or maybe the wife, they may or may not be very comfortable. So many a times we should also find out whether the spouse is comfortable with this away from home lifestyle of the salesperson, because if the spouse is not comfortable, what would happen? We will select a particular candidate and we would post him on job, and then he would leave after some point of time because he is facing problems at the domestic end. His spouse is not very comfortable, and because of which he will be compelled to he will be compelled to leave the job, and that is something that we don't want. So we also have to take into account the spouse, whether he or she is comfortable with this kind of lifestyle or this nature of job of the salesperson or not. Now let's talk a little bit about training. Again, we have read about training, we have read about the various steps involved in training, so I'm not going to cover all those aspects, but you need to be knowing about those aspects. So please refresh whatever you have discussed, whatever you understood in human resource management, which includes the 4 steps which are involved in training, and which also includes how to assess the effectiveness of training, various methods. We have discussed all these things there. So here I'll be talking specifically about the areas on which the salespersons are trained. So they would be given training on company, about the company history, how it started, about the values that the company cherishes, about the mission and vision of the company, and about the different locations and where the company is present, and different production centers or headquarters, employee strength. So all this information is provided to the salesperson. Apart from that, the salespersons also need to be provided product training. and they should be provided training not only on the own product but on the rival products as well. Now own product so that they know about the product well, and so that they may convince the customer about the quality of their product. But why the competitor product? Because they may have to make a comparison of their own product with the competitor product in front of the customer, or to convince the customer, and in that case, in that particular situation, the knowledge of the rival products would come in handy. So he should be knowing about not only own product but about the rival products in the market, the new rival firms that have come up in the market, and the products that they have brought to the market, and how his own company's product scores over these rival company products. Then customer orientation is a very, very important soft skill. Prioritizing the customer requirements, focusing on the well-being of the customer. This is what we mean by customer orientation. And to have this customer orientation, first of all, the salesperson needs to have good listening skills, which means that he should be able to listen actively. He should not only hear what the customer or the prospect is saying, but he should also try to understand his meaning as to what he means. He should not only make an impression from the spoken word, he should also assess as to what the customer is unable to express. So he should have that kind of listening communication skills, because it is very, very important for the customer, for the salesperson to understand the customer needs. And if to understand the customer needs, you'll have to listen to what he's saying, and you'll have to observe him while he's using a particular product. And that is why we have said that listening skills are very, very important. And then there should be a solution oriented mindset. The customer is facing some problem, and that is why seeking a product which can help him get rid of that particular problem. So he has a particular need which he wants to satisfy through a particular product. So it is for the salesperson to suggest him a solution for his problems. It is not only that the salesperson is only going to sell his product, he has to suggest a solution to the customer, so that the customer can actually get rid of whatever problem he is facing after using the product which has been sold by the salesperson. So that should be the orientation of the salesperson. And that is why customer orientation is one very, very important area on which Salesforce is provided training on. Then again, effective sales presentation skills are very, very important. The salespersons, we have seen this in the sales process. We have seen that how making presentation is a very, very important step in the whole sales process. And the salesperson will have to go to the clients, will have to go to the customers and the prospects, or the buying committees when he's in a B2B kind of situation. So when he's selling to a business firm, there he'll have to make his presentation in front of the buying committee of that particular firm. So he needs to be having very, very good presentation skills. Then negotiation skills. What do we mean by negotiation skills? Negotiation skills, basically, please understand, whenever there is a sales presentation made by salesperson, and if the customer is convinced, then naturally the next stage is negotiation, wherein the prices at which the product would be delivered, the delivery timelines, the quantity and everything, they're all decided, they're all finalized. So this is what we mean by negotiation, when the salesperson and the prospect, they are finalizing the various points of the agreement, including the price at which the product would be sold, including the extra services which would be provided by the salesperson or by his firm, the warranty periods, the discounts. So the salesperson needs to have negotiation skills also, so that he does not give away too much while negotiating with the customer. He should be able to make the sales, while at the same time he should also be able to earn handsome profit for the company. If he gives away too much, if he gives away too much of a discount or too long a credit period, then it is not going to be very profitable for the company. And that is why negotiation skills are very, very important also. Again, he should also be knowledgeable about the field procedures and responsibilities. So what are the field procedures? What do we mean by field procedures? Field procedure means, for example, supposing he has to make a sales call. He has to visit a particular customer to talk about his product and to make a presentation. So what all documents does he have to fill up? For example, if he wants to claim traveling reimbursement because he has traveled to the customer site, then naturally he will have to claim that reimbursement. There is a particular document meant for that, and he'll have to also furnish the photocopies or the original copies of the tickets that he had bought, or the train ticket or the flight ticket that he has brought. So this basically is what we know as field procedures, and he should be knowledgeable about these field procedures. Otherwise he would face problem while going to the field and visiting the various customers. So he should be knowledgeable about such field procedures. Now let's have a look at the training techniques which are used. Role plays would mean wherein the salesperson is asked to play. It's a hypothetical scenario, and the salesperson is asked to play a particular role. And why do we have this kind of role plays? Because many a times, if you want to train the salesperson on how to negotiate, role plays can come in handy. If you want to train the salesperson on what can be the possible resistances from the client side or from the customer side, these role plays can be handy. So now the salesperson would assume the role of a buyer or a seller in these kind of hypothetical situations, and then he'll try to act as though a buyer or seller acts. So this would give him an idea as to what buyer and seller think while they are in these kind of situations, and this will help him when he actually goes to the field and sells to the customers or the prospects. Again, sensitivity training is provided to make him more sensitive about the requirements of a buyer, to make him more sensitive of the needs of the customer, because that will help him improve his sales presentation, and this would also help him suggest the best possible solution to the prospect or to the buyer. So sensitivity training is given. Programmed instructions are basically used for factual knowledge. So if you want to impart factual knowledge like attributes of the product, features in the product, and about the history of the company, you may use programmed instruction. What will happen in these kind of programmed instructions? You will be, as a salesperson, you would have to read some material on computer, and then you have to answer the questions. Once you answer the questions, then you go to the next module. There also, once you answer all the questions, then only you go to the next module, and this way you have to complete the whole course. So this is also known as self-paced learning. So programmed instructions are basically meant for factual knowledge. For example, knowledge about the company, knowledge about the features in your own product and the rival product. So for them, programmed instructions are more useful, while role plays and sensitivity training are more useful for softer skills like customer orientation and negotiation skills. Then movies or videotapes can also be played for the sales force so that they can understand how selling has to be done, and what is the right appropriate method of making the sales, and what is not so appropriate method of making the sales. I'll give an example of Rocket Singh, Salesman of the Year. In many sales organizations, this particular movie is shown to the budding salespersons, to the newly recruited salespersons, so that they can assess, so that they can understand what all qualities should be there in a salesperson, and they should, so that they are able to imbibe those qualities and become a good salesperson. So these are some of the training techniques which can be used. As I said, there are other training techniques also which we can use. For example, we can ask them to attend a lecture wherein they would be briefed about the product features, or they would be briefed about the customer moves, or they would be briefed about the customer taste and competitor moves. So there are other options also available to you, but these are the broad techniques that you have to use to train your sales persons. So with this, we are closing this particular session. In the next session that we'll talk about the other aspects in Salesforce management. Thank you very much for your time.